Joining us, Democratic Senator of Pennsylvania, John Fetterman. He's a member of Homeland Security and Governmental Affairs. I'm going to get to Kristi Noem in a minute, but let's start with shutdown. A number of your Democratic colleagues are saying they're not going to vote for this funding bill unless DHS and ICE are reformed. They're saying they can't, in good conscience, add more funding to the department as American citizens are being killed. I know you disagree with that vote. I want to understand why.
Yeah, well, let's just describe this to your viewers. Now, this vote will not defund or change ICE in any way. They have $178 billion available for their funding, and that was made possible after the big, beautiful bill, which I did not vote for. Not a single Democrat in D.C. voted for that. So they have effectively unlimited money right now. So that would be a symbolic vote. But if they do vote to shut the government down, that would make that the second time to not pay the military and a lot of other kinds of critical things just for these things. So that's what we have to look at right now. About now, what I think we all hope we could unbundle them, and then we could vote on the 5, and those would be passed quickly, almost on a UC, in fact. And then now the one thing that's standalone, that's a much different situation. But no one thinks that that's going to happen, and that's going to force our government to shut down. And I stand, and I'm very proud with our military, and to push them to not getting paid again twice in 2 months. It's a very difficult situation, but it will not alter the situation with funding for ICE because, as I said, the big beautiful bill has already provided $178 billion that cannot be touched and is not part of that conversation.
I think that's a really good point to make, that they already have all the funding that they would need. I guess the other side of it is if it is bundled, the leverage you have is not funding the military, not funding a few of those other agencies, and forcing Republicans to come to the table because they want those things funded. It allows you to negotiate some stricter requirements for ICE, stricter requirements for Border Patrol to send it back to the border, to make sure that ICE needs a warrant to arrest someone or to go into a home, that they're not shooting and killing Americans on the street. Do you understand the leverage argument there?
I mean, the argument now that I think there's a rule. I don't think you should ever shut our government down, whatever the reason is. Like last year, and now they shut down and put our America through 45 days, and people really suffered, including SNAP, 42 million SNAP recipients, and now that we left with no health care. We really came away empty-handed, and now putting through that. So I think shutting our government down is fundamentally wrong. All of those changes are entirely appropriate for ICE. And I said, I've called that they have to stand down and remove from Minneapolis, and Noem has to go. So for me, that's where we are. I don't think there's a single Democrat that thinks that ICE is doing a good job or behaving in an appropriate way. I think, and I hope we can all agree, that those two souls should be alive right now. So what's the right way to move it forward? So for me, that's me as a Democrat, as someone that believes we should have a secure border. And I do think we should deport all of the criminals, migrants in our country. And as actually the ranking member on the subcommittee of board security for that. So for me, I support a secure border, but now Noem has to go. But I also was the Democrat that really tried to lead the charge that Mayorkas was a disaster and our border was effectively open. And I warned that could very much cost our election in 2024, as it did. So I try to play it straightforward and realize that not a single Democrat passed or voted for the big, beautiful bill, and that has provided the funding for ICE, and not a single Democrat is not appalled by ICE and the circumstances in Minneapolis.
Yeah, and there are a lot of Republicans that are appalled by what they're seeing as well. And I guess help me understand where you think Democrats should go on immigration, because it is very hot right now. People's emotions are running high. the poll numbers for ICE
my
are.
views on immigration.
Well, hold on. The poll numbers for
are-
ICE are in the toilet, which is why a lot of Democrats are saying they need to abolish it. It cannot be reformed. I know you disagree with that. And I'm curious what you think the message should be going forward, because you come from Pennsylvania. It is a state that Democrats need to win. It's a state that Donald Trump won last time. What do you think the message needs to be in order to win in the midterms and then to have a chance in 28?
Oh, well, I'm up 15 points. That just came out yesterday. The most difficult state in the country. I'm up 15 points. So I've been a very reasonable. I try to be that voice of reason through it all this. I've remained incredibly unapologetically pro-immigration. I absolutely would love to protect the dreamers. I would also hope, after some of these changes, to create a path for the tax-paying, the hardworking, otherwise migrants that are in our nation too, to give them a path for citizenship. That's never changed. That never changed for me. And now that has to marry that to a secure our border. And we all agree we have to deport all of the criminal migrants that are in our country right now. That's going to be my argument, and that's been my position. And that's put me up for 15 points in Pennsylvania. Now, it's much easier just to preach to the blue choirs in very blue states or districts. For me, like being in the most purple state in the country, that keeps people honest and realize there are two sides of this issue, and trying to find that way. As a committed Democrat, as a pro-immigration one, I think all of these things must be compatible. And now I'm not going to vote to defund the military.
Mike Lawler was on the show, Republican from New York, in the House the other day, and he was talking about the Dignity Act, a bipartisan bill to address immigration reform in the House. Is that something that you'd be interested in exploring? Is there any bipartisan immigration legislation being considered in the Senate?
What kind of district is he in?
He's in a purple district.
Yeah, so maybe we're trying to find a way forward. He's not having really extreme kinds of thing like abolish ICE or that they were domestic terrorists. That kind of extreme. Do not ever compare anyone to Nazis. Nazis are Nazis, and they deserve in the history as part of the worst force in America. In the history. So for me, it's like, all of the purple districts and those states are trying to find a way forward. And that's where I am. And that's why I'm delighted to be here and have this conversation. And this vote about ICE right now, they have effectively unlimited money for a bill that was passed without one single Democrat vote.
All right, comprehensive immigration reform, you want that. You do not think that you should shut down the government, and you do think Kristi Noem should be fired. Senator John Fetterman, thank you very much, as always, for joining us.
Thank you.